Hello everyone. Today I'm gonna stream the Spiral Abyss clearing. Um, the Spiral Abyss has resetted for the first time in the version 4.0. I believe this is the first Spiral Abyss that people would be facing in the versions that has come after the release of Fontaine. I'm not quite sure what kind of enemies we'll end up facing over there. We'll get to know about those if I were to click on this eye information icon over here. So, yeah, not much about the enemies though over here. I do get to see the blessing that we will end up getting, which includes if a character were to recover HP, then that character will end up getting 10% of increased attack for up to 3 times, and that buff will end up lasting for 10 seconds, which is interesting, which because you would be incentivized to carry healers more than you'd carry shielders, and also to take some damage and not be in that peak prime health situation where you're not losing HP at all. Because if you're not healing, or if you're not reducing your HP, you're not getting a chance to heal yourself, and if you're not healing yourself, you're not getting that increased attack that you would have gotten when you would have healed. Um, but also there's a chance of getting 40 elemental mastery, which can get all the way up until 120 elemental mastery for 10 seconds if the characters were to lose HP. I do believe this is going to be very helpful for, say, characters like Hu Tao or Shao, which have these characters have that losing of HP as a part of their gameplay mechanism. If Uta were to say activate her elemental skill, a certain part of HP disappears, but also she gets added pyro damage bonus, which increases dramatically when her health is less than 15%, I guess. Correct me if I'm mistaken in the comments down below. While Shao continually loses HP when the elemental burst is activated. So it's going to be it's interesting that both losing HP as well as getting HP helps the characters in one way or the other. Right, this is what the blessings look like for the Abyssal Moon. I'm going to go to the challenge now, and I don't need to teleport because I'm right here in front of this place. All I'm going to press is escape, and let's see how it ends up working. So in the last Spiral Abyss phase, the 2023 8 waning phase, I was able to get to the bottom of the abyss with 33 stars, and the bottom means the 12th floor, chamber 3. Um, the goal is the same this time around as well, to get to the bottom, and depending on how difficult the challenges would end up looking like, we will get 33 stars or probably lesser than that, but if we are lucky enough we might actually end up getting more. So let's see. All right, yeah, this is interesting. So usually what used to happen back in the day was, back in the Sumeru times, was people were incentivized to use dendro based reactions, and that way they would get additional damage. So if it's bloom, hyper bloom, spread, aggravate, or burgeon, burning, things like these, dendro based reactions, they would have ended up getting more damage and more output from their attack. But this time around, it's in the floor 9, it's if a character triggers a vaporize reaction. Vaporize is a combination of hydro as well as pyro. The character's damage from the vaporize reaction will end up increasing for 50% for 5 seconds. But this is something that adds to itself, because if someone is triggering a vaporize reaction, it's only the first damage that will be the normal one, and it's a loop that keeps feeding to itself as long as they keep giving the vaporized damage, they would be, giving this much of output, which is great. Right, so let's look at the opponents for this round, and we have these folks. Oh, we have the mechs as well. Interesting. Mech as well as Mech Numa. Um, right now, I have only one character from Fontaine, the one that I got for free. I have not made any pulls in the current banner because I personally did not find Lenny to be an interesting character. But the one that I have right now is Lynette. Although she's not built to her prime for Abyss, so I'm gonna not add her to the team. Although I do think that the affinity to Numa or the affinity to Usia would definitely be of help in clearing these floors. Apart from the advantages that these Ley Line Disorders provide you with. Let's take for instance if the first half were to contain enemies that are inclined or affinity, they have an affinity towards Usia, then you would be much better off having Numa, which is the opposite of the Usia, and that way you would end up causing more damage to these ones. While on the second half, if people were to carry Usia affinitied is that a word? But the characters having affinity to Usia, then they would end up causing more damage to the enemies having Numa. Right, so I'm gonna carry some bow character because in the first half, because these look like quite a lot and they would probably be spread far and wide, while on the second half I'll carry Kazuha and the sword character, and that way I can sweep them right in and cause damage. And yeah, it pays to carry both Pyro as well as Hydro in both the teams, but the Hydro is more of a requirement for the second half because we have a large Pyro slime here, while the Pyro becomes more of a requirement in the first half. And for Chamber 3, yeah, Hydro here again, the Fatui Pyro Agent. Right, let's see how it goes. I'm going to carry Raiden, Yoimiya, Xingqiu as well as Zhongli. And for this team, I'll carry. This will be interesting. Bennett, Ayato, Kazuha, and to get a bit more of that Pyro output, I probably should take her. Right, and I will be getting the healing and the buffing from Bennett because Bennett is an active healer. Although, yeah, let's see if I would be better off if I were to say have her Shangling in the first slot, then Ayato, and then Hen as well as finally her, thereby increasing the Pyro or the Hydro potency by quite a lot. So the second team has an elemental resonance of soothing water, while the first team does not have any elemental resonance. So if it's 4, then I guess there is one that is, yeah, there it is. The elemental resistance increases by 15%, while the physical resistance increases by 15% as well. Right, so let's begin. Alright, so it's better off to select something that lasts for us for the entire floor. I'm going to take elemental or energy recharge 20%. And here we go.
Illusion shattered. Rain cutter.
Raiden's Shogun's skill is applied, and that way we end up getting that off-field electro damage, while Xingqiu's ult or the elemental burst has been activated as well, and that is how we ensure that we end up getting that off-field hydro damage. Also, Zhongli's pillar, because we could use the shield here. Now, as much as I would have said that, you know, healing and losing HP would be beneficial in terms of the attack output, I don't have a couple of healers, so I would much rather, you know, use a shielder in these phases where it's actually easy, rather than, you know, having people that can heal or, you know, deal more damage when they lose HP. Yep, the Vaporize indeed gets us good damage numbers here, because the multiplier for Ayato is not that good. It's okay, but it's definitely not that good. So, and Ayato also has been losing HP from what I see. Right, so we have energy charge here. If you were to take something of the same kind, that wouldn't really be of help. I would then take the normal and charge back damage increasing by 20%, effective for this flow. And here we go.
I will have order.
Alright then, we have enemies that are more inclined towards Hydro, so definitely having a dedicated Pyro DPS in this flow was a wise choice to make. I hate getting frozen mid-battle. It's the next worst thing that could happen to you. The first worst thing is, of course, getting staggered by enemies that are constantly pinning you to a wall and not giving you a single chance to make your move, right? So, whoops, there you go. So this is the one that keeps getting you the Hydro damage while someone threw a Cryo Molotov at me. Getting frozen in the lower floors is okay, but as the floors go on becoming increasingly difficult, it's very important for you to be in motion as well as keep dealing damage as quickly as possible, and that way you would actually be of help to, you know, make the time.
Be still. Into the wind.
Ayato could use some of that healing, you know. So I'm gonna drop this one, and wow, Ayato's really going at it. Yeah, and this is the third chamber of the 9th floor. It's interesting because if I were to select something that's lasting this floor, while this is the last chamber of the floor, I don't like the way the first one really looks like, you know, the reliance of the character to sprint and then their damage increases by 20%, and there's also an internal cooldown to it which essentially says that it can only happen once in like, what, 15 seconds, so it's the least worst one. I guess I'm gonna go ahead with this. And then there's this Hydro application thing that could be of your advantage or disadvantage depending on what kind of elements you're carrying with yourself, or what kind of visions for that matter, because for someone who does not have, say, a Hydro applicating or a Hydro applying character with them, they would be benefited by this. But for someone else, it's gonna be like, oh yeah, you're bringing in the resistance for Hydro and these characters, so is it really going to be of help? Only time will tell. Right, and is this Pyro this time around? It is Pyro. Perfect. I really hope for Ayato to have greater scaling or greater multiplier for the damage that he puts out, but at this point in time, I think it's fine. It should work because I have that extra damage coming from Vaporize. And as you saw that even Kokomi, who has a negative crit rate, was able to deal great damage, and using the burst for Kokomi I was able to put Ayato back into the team and heal him while Kokomi was the one dealing damage on the outside. Right, so for floor 10, the character deals 50% increased damage to opponents affected by Hydro. So it's almost like you're open to use any kind of Hydro reactions that you see fit, as long as you're using Hydro. That's the important point. And of course, the fact that you get 50% additional damage when opponents are affected by it. So let's see the kind of enemies that we'll end up getting. Two of these, Numa, and yeah, these will be better affected by Pyro, I'll say. Ruin Grader. And the first ones would be... yeah, so definitely someone like Kazuha would be of great help in the first half, especially in the Chamber 2, because we see that there are a bunch of specters, bunch of mushrooms, dendro shrooms, hydro shrooms, cryo shrooms, and geo shrooms. So the swirling of their elemental powers will be of great help here. I don't really have to use anything from my side. And finally, in the Chamber 3, we have these two people, and well, let's just say that these are very tanky opponents. Right, so I'm gonna simply switch the teams, swap them from the first half to the second half, hoping for things to work. If they don't work, of course, we can go back to the drawing board and see what better of a team we can end up getting. What else was there on the fourth team? I think it was Kokomi. Sangonomiya, Kokomi. There you go. Right, so let's go. It's interesting that it's only Kazuha that I have not leveled up to 90 while everyone else is. Because the primary output for Kazuha's damage comes from the elemental mastery and not from attack. Although I might be mistaken, feel free to let me know in the comments down below if attack helps Kazuha in one way or the other. Unless of course you're building a physical Kazuha, which I am not.
Stabilize.
Witness the power of the
Yeah.
Rain out. Shine down. Time for a light show.
Oh boy. It would have been really bad if I would not have Zhongli's shield here, you know? Because that thing was going round and round and round and round. So imagine if I were not being able to have Zhongli's shield, I would have been thrown away to a corner of the abyss floor. And let's just say that would not have been real fun. Right, we're gonna start with the healing because of course
The wind knows it. I may have overestimated myself.
no, you're healing yourself. You have definitely not overestimated yourself either. It's an interesting dialogue. I'm probably hearing that for the first time. And let them come close once, and then once they are here,
Be still.
the Pyronado and Ayato's combination is, well, it's fun. That's what I'll say.
Solidify.
Rain cutter.
So Xingqiu, and I was not lucky enough to get the CD, the cooldown reset for the skill. So I'm simply gonna go ahead with Raiden's elemental skill application as well as Yoimiya's Pew Pew.
I will have
You know,
order.
that's how I like to call that elemental skill.
Let me weave you a verse.
It's really brainless how
Rain
easy it is
outlines
to
your
use
face.
someone like Yoimiya, because you don't need to aim, you don't need to charge your attack. All you need to do is activate that elemental skill and go boom boom. Right, so energy recharge 20%. This will definitely help me get to my character's elemental burst quickly. So I'm gonna use this.
Your journey ends here, Lord of Sand. Your sacrifice is ready.
The depths back down. Cascade.
It's interesting how the elemental burst also helps you iframe those attacks from the enemies, and that way you are not getting attacked or getting affected by those damages when you're in that animation. Some people really hate that animation because it breaks their flow of attacking something or fighting something. They really want to be in that gameplay phase. Well, I'm like, it's cool. It's really cool to see those things because it gets your character some personality outside of cutscenes, outside of places where they're supposed to look cool, you know, in those places. And
This is order.
I think I'm gonna finish up with Songli, but well, duh, I could not. So it's going to be Xingqiu doing the honors. Right, 11th floor, and wow, this is interesting. It's not only just Hydro, because I thought, well, Hydro will take the stage because Fontaine is a nation of Hydro, at least that's how it is shown. But it's, well, people having Pyro characters as well as Hydro characters, both will be benefited. Depending on what kind of enemies will end up getting, this will be an interesting one. Right, so of course by the first half you are able to see that in Chamber 1 the first half is better off having Hydro characters, while the second half is much better off having Pyro characters. And I think this continues on the trend, and I don't see any character or any enemy that would keep flying away, so there is no dependence on a bow character especially, but if we were to have one, that wouldn't really be a bad thing. Right, so I'm gonna go ahead with the same set of characters. Like I said, I'm not going to be really creative in the selection of my characters. If it works, it works. And over here, it's going to be Raiden. Then who else? Her, Xingqiu, and finally Zhongli. Yep. I think we're good for now. It's only the time that will end up telling us if our character selections suck. Of course, I'm going to go for the energy recharge. It's the ult that I rely on the most. Wow, this is not good. Yeah, this is definitely not good. It's not the longevity of your own characters that's going to be a deciding factor on how well you performed in this stage, but it's rather the life that is remaining on this monolith that will be a deciding factor of how well you're doing. And this is interesting that by the time I'm doing that,
The birds, Kamisato army. Suyu, be still.
some other enemies gonna pop up and, you know, destroy the monolith. Now that's something I cannot let happen.
Eat this! Nice and spicy.
Are there anyone else that I have not paying attention to? 87. That's not good.
Into the wind.
I'm leaving the next team with much lesser headroom, and that means that they'll have to have the 87 to 60, 27% to live off, which is not bad. But then again, I don't know how this team would end up performing, right?
Shine down. Time for a light show.
Oh, Kazuha was really a god grace on that team. I wish I had a second copy of Kazuha. Or someone like Venti, but definitely Kazuha is my preference.
Stabilize.
Illusion shattered. Inazuma shines eternal.
It's not of use because it's the pyro damage that's being added, not electro damage bonus, but
This
well,
is order.
we're going to do the best with what
Rain cutter.
choices,
No, my sword.
with what devices and everything else that we have. 11% left to losing the third star. This is definitely not good. 8% at this point.
I will have order.
3%.
Stabilize.
Shine down. Now you shall perish.
1%. Whoops. Not good, not good, not good. Definitely not good.
Let me
And the
lead
third
you
star
abroad.
is gone.
Huh?
I'll have to rerun this flow.
This
But
is order.
yeah, I'm just gonna proceed on with the 2 stars that I'll end up getting because it's the first flow anyway. The first half is what I mean to say. No, the first chamber. It's weird the kind of nomenclatures that they get up to. Chambers, flows, halves.
Witness the power of Guwa. Know my sword.
It's funny how Xingqiu got frozen up in the air, don't you think? Right, so over here I'm not gonna go for the max HP, that would have benefited Hu Tao I guess, but definitely Elemental Mastery will be of help here.
Fallen leaves. Adorn my...
I really like to have Shangan's Pyronado ASAP.
One with nature. Mind the deluge.
It's the Hydro damage bonus, that's what I'm using, but definitely my element of choice would have been something else. Definitely not Hydro.
Time to go. Into the wind.
Okay, so the one more advantage that people with 5-star characters end up having is, of course, the iframe that they end up getting as a consequence of their burst animations having animations, like dedicated animations instead of something that's a part of the gameplay. There goes my ult as well. Not good. Right, so if it's the time that I have to race against or if it's my own health bar, things are comparatively easy. But if it's the, protecting something else, a monolith or some hostage that has no brains or is just standing there, things can get difficult. Really, really difficult. Well, I'm not gonna complain, that's how the nature of the game is.
Stabilize.
Or this times abyss is.
Rain cutter. Rain.
Whoops.
Outlines your fit. Time for a light show.
There goes that one.
I will have order.
And it's interesting because that was a team that was actually taking advantage of the losing health and gaining health kind of bonus, the boon of this abyssal moon. At least that's what it was called. But still, for some reason, it's that team that ended up losing out,
Solidify.
I guess.
Let me weave you a bird.
This is
Or
order.
maybe the Ayato team performed well because it had Kazuha while the other team was like, not so well. Because it wasn't losing health, Zhongli was there. So it's for the first time in a long time where it's actually bad when you have health retained.
Torn to oblivion.
This is order.
And there goes the second chamber as well. Moving on to the third chamber, Let's see if it has some more tricks up its sleeve that will end up disappointing me. Right, elemental burst, of course, and that way I am able to get the most out of the Pyronado,
The wind knows me. Mind the deluge.
as well as this deluge thingy.
Hi.
Oh, it's these folks. I mean, these are really notorious. If you don't kill them at once, they get healed up, and then it takes quite a long time to kill the other one. Right. And they also know how to parry, which is bad news.
Nice spice.
Cascade.
Well, I'll call that coincidence that they both came together, because it was definitely not me who got them, right? Definitely not me. Primo Bishop. Has been quite a while since I fought you back in UA. So, what can I say? Nice to meet you, I guess.
Solidify.
Time for a light show.
So I'm gonna take the most advantage of the additional pyro damage bonus that I have. And just because I have the shield already, I'm simply gonna let the Primo Bishop embarrass itself with the burst that it provides me with.
Stabilize.
In the hope of giving me some damage, so my characters are well built enough for me to clear this abyss, or at least this chamber, at relative ease. Right, this is the 12th floor. This is where the defecation hits the oscillation. Everything or every kind of bonus that we had been getting so far is now no longer there. Of course, the blessing of the abyssal moon persists, but apart from that, any bonus that comes from the Ley Line Disorder, they're not there anymore. So yeah, let's take a look at the opponent details first. Magu Kenki. It's the single Magu Kenki from what I understand, not the three ones, the one that, well, was difficult. And yeah, so definitely I'm gonna take a pyro team in the second one, because the water splitting and the water spouting phantasms are, as well as the Cryocitizen mage, they would definitely be more damaged if I were to take some cryo inclined character in the second one. And Emperor Fire and Lion. The Emperor Fire and Lion is again vulnerable to Hydro. So I guess Hydro first half and Pyro second half. And wow, the Coppelius as well as, or the Nemesis of Coppelius. Right. Yeah, it's going to be benefited by Pyro, that's for sure. I wonder if I should take Huta over here in the second half instead of, say, someone like Yoimiya. But I'll have to do a lot of running around. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna keep the team same for now again, and probably make those changes happen depending on how disappointed I am with the results, right? And for the first half, it would be Xiangleng, Ayato, Kazuha, and who else? Kokomi. Let's see if I would be benefited by taking a mono cryo team in the... You know what? I should. How about I take Shinho, Ayaka, then of course I would be taking Kazuha, Kaidehara Kazuha, and then Sangonomiya Kokomi. Yeah, perma-freeze might be of help here, but I don't know if the opponents over here would be perma-frozen. Only time will tell. Elemental skill, definitely something that I can make use of, so I'm gonna take this one first.
Rest and rebuild.
And I'm gonna let this dude stand up
Take your
first,
truth.
and then do the attacking.
Embrace the ice.
Well, not as good a damage as I was expecting, but it's better than nothing, I guess.
Cryo incarnate.
One with nature. Fallen leaves. Adorn my...
Take flight.
Oh boy. Gonna run. Ah! Okay, so now you decided to move yourself away. How convenient.
Transfigure.
Also, Ayaka is not in a good shape.
The wind knows me.
Sakura swirl.
It's definitely performing better than Ayato, let me tell you that. Whoops, that was
Into the wind.
not a good thing to do, to keep standing there like that.
Whirling snow. By ordinance divine.
The wind knows me.
Okay. Whoops.
Fine.
It's not fine, Kazuha.
My will
It's not fine. I should have done a better job at dodging, you know?
As one with wind and cloud. Into the wind.
Yeah. You keep moving, and I keep doing a bad job at dodging.
Take your
The
truth.
trend goes on and on. It's almost like I'm using Kokomi as a tank just because she has a lot of HP to spare. Which, well, honestly, it's not a bad idea. But what happens if I were to, you know, lose the only thing that's supposed to get me the HP? You know, don't kill the healer. That's a bad
Let me
thing to
weave you
do.
a verse. Know my sword. Shine down. Time for a light show.
Oh, these are tanky as hell. Plus, it doesn't really help that I don't have any bonus damage coming from the Ley Line Disorders.
Stabilize.
There is no escape. Now you shall perish. Ha! Ha! Kill!
Also, just because I don't have any of that coming, I might as well use
Ring cutter.
Raiden. But then again, just because these are elemental beings that are made from Hydro, I would be much better off using something that's a lot hotter, like Hydro.
Shine down. Let me weave you a verse.
I don't think I should be needing to use Shingchu to get the vaporized status, just because these people are already made of Hydro, so the contact should get me that bonus reaction damage, but I'm not too sure.
Rain outlines your fate.
This is order.
There goes my first star, but then again it's 12 floors, so I'm not expecting to get all 3 stars in a floor. Oh, and that was half the battle. There's more of it. There's more of where that came from.
Order guide you. Gather.
Know my sword. Huh?
Well, that
Let
was
me
a
weave you
stupid
a
thing to
illusion
do.
shattered.
Attacking the Pyrocism Mage with Hydro. Because Xingqiu douses himself with Hydro, it's very natural that he would get frozen on that contact.
Is order.
Shine down. Know my sword. Huh? Ring cutter. Fire hazard.
So if I were to finish it in 5 minutes, which I don't think I would be able to, I should be able to get 2 stars. But if not, which happens to be the case,
Torn to oblivion.
it's 1 star. But hey, as long as I'm able to get to the bottom of the abyss, I'm a happy man.
Order guide you. Gather.
One of the other reasons why I don't like to use Raiden as, say, a dedicated DPS is because I run out of the stamina, you know, just trying to conserve that using the burst damage. Oh, I was able to get 2 stars. That's interesting. Right, so I'm gonna take this one because the other ones are, well, they're not as good as the first one, is what I'm gonna say.
The wind knows me.
Come on now. Just because I'm using shield does not mean you should. It's not fair.
Covenant of the deep. Hold the line. Take flight.
And then you get up from your slumber real quick, trying to get your shield back. It's not justified.
Fallen leaves, adorn my night. Into the wind.
Whirling snow. Sakura swirl.
What is 62 grand? Those are some great numbers, let me tell you.
The wind knows.
Like, I did not see Ayaka dealing that much damage before. So, definitely it's the, you know, the weakness of this crap towards cool things,
Take flight.
be it pyro or cryo, that's definitely playing out here. You know, giving me some of that bonus damage.
So rude. My apologies. Embrace the ice.
The wind knows me.
My will embodied.
As one with wind and cloud.
Hold the line.
Time to go. Into the wind.
Do your master's bidding. Take flight.
It's almost like I predicted that, you know, Shenhe would get her elemental burst ready at that point in time, which was not ready, mind you. And so, yeah, sometimes it takes not just good reflexes but foresight as to how these characters work, as well as the previous knowledge of when their energy might end up coming back. That helps in Spiral Abyss.
You are coming was foretold.
But of course there's this other factor of things being straight random. So how are you gonna see things the way they're supposed to work? There's only to some extent that you can help yourself with that knowledge, but everything apart from that is, well, ooga booga.
Solidify. Order guide you.
And the petrify skill is also useful, you know, it just makes them stay wherever they are so that you can attack them without them attacking you back. So it's not just making you safe, but it's also making them vulnerable. That's what Zombie does. Really suggest pulling for him if you haven't yet.
Witness the power of Fuwa. Body and mind. Shine down. Time for a light show.
Oh wow, this is going to be interesting.
I will have order.
Let's see if these people get petrified, and yes they do.
Inazuma shines eternal.
What are these? Some kind of alien?
This is order.
Like Fontaine be showing you real weird characters, real weird enemies.
Rain outlines your fate.
Not to mention that our conquest was something that I did not see coming. I would of course keep myself from giving you any spoilers in the stream, but if you have not played that yet, you are doing yourself a great disservice. You should definitely give that a try. The writing is increased in its quality from Sumeru. So if you think Sumeru was great, you don't know what Fontaine has in its, you know, in its store to offer you when it comes to our conquests. Right, so elemental skill damage is something I already have, so if I were to take this, these won't get compounded. I'll have to take something else. So yeah, 50% chance for the CD to end,
Dance
and
with me.
hopefully I would end up
The show's only just
getting more of the elemental skill and more of those elemental particles to, you know,
Into the wind.
get that elemental burst into a working state as soon as possible.
My will and body. Take flight. Embrace the ice. Not done. Yet.
Was it well done? I'm not too sure. When Kokomi is the one downing your shield, it's really a bad show for you, Fatui.
My apologies.
Hey, that's not fair. I was attacking him, not you, now was I?
Into the wind.
The curtain falls.
Yes, it does.
Rest and rebuild. Covenants of the deep.
One with nature.
Is that a minigun?
The birds.
Come on, Mihoyo. Give characters minigun as well. I mean, playable characters, not just the enemies, because, well, how's that fair? That they get guns, but we don't.
Cryo incarnate. Take flight.
Well, chances are that Florent might get herself a gun as an elemental skill, I guess. But come on now. Give us an actual gun as being a weapon, like polearm, like claymore, like swords, like bows, like anything else. Give us guns.
Stabilize. This is order.
I don't think they'll get petrified now, will they? Of course they won't. They're world bosses after all, so how disrespectful it will end up being for them if they get petrified, right? And this is not good.
Now you shall perish.
Yoimiya took too much damage, and only if I had a dedicated healer in this team. No, I mean Xingqiu does heal. I'm not saying Xingqiu does not heal. It's just that the healing comes as a residue of the ult. Not the ult, the skill. Rather than a dedicated thing in itself. So I would much rather have healing that comes from natively rather than, you know, something that's like an added bonus, because the added bonus waiver themselves off just like added bonuses do, you know, not really special things, but being something that's like, yeah, you should be really happy that you have it, no matter how insignificant it might end up being.
This is order. Solidify.
17 grand. I wasn't hoping for that much, but come on, 17 grand. Are you kidding me? I need to make Yoimiya last, because if she dies, the entire thing is blown out of water.
Torn to oblivion.
I will have order.
It's only after effective rotation that I'll be able to confirm that, yeah, things are indeed working out. You know? Oops. There you go, you getting your shield back. Only if I was gonna, well, the players would have been able to do the same. The thing with this is, if you're being too overprotective with your characters, you lose out on the time and you lose out on the damage that you deal per second. And that's 2 stars over here as well. Which brings us to the bottom of the abyss. 12-3. Let's see how many stars we ended up getting ourselves. Gonna have to enter the spiral abyss again, and Yeah, so 9 stars over there, 9 stars over there, 6 stars in the last one as we saw it coming, but 8 stars on the floor 11th. Now, that is not good. That is definitely not good. I'm gonna have to redo it again, but for the sake of keeping this recording short, I won't do it right now. I'll probably do it later. But 450 from this one, 450 from the 10th, 300 from the last one, and 300 from this one. So 450, 450, 900, 900 plus 600, 1500. If I'm counting it correctly. That's how many primo gems we ended up getting. Of course, no, hold on. It's not 450. It's almost counting 3 times of what we end up getting. So 50 primo gems for clearing it. So 150, 150, 300, and then 100 for this one, I guess, and 100 for the last one. Yeah. So 300, 400, 500. It could be 550 if I were to get that one more star. But yeah, wow, no, the first calculation was way off the mark. I was assuming that they give 150 for clearing one chamber, which is not only outlandish, but for a company like MiHoYo, it's gonna sink them if they were to do that, right? So, yeah, that's about it for this stream. If you liked what you saw, feel free to like, share it with your friends who play Genshin Impact, also with those who don't, who probably might feel like playing it if they see, some gameplay like this one, the kind of hurriedness, the kind of urgency that comes into play when you get to play Spiral Abyss is astounding. I wonder how people do it on their phones or on their tablets or on some other device, basically, but not on computers, because in order to do Spiral Abyss, it's really important for you to have you know not a single dropped frame, a relatively good ping, as well as, of course, keyboard mouse for better accuracy. But yeah, as it stands, it's that's the first pile abyss for Fontaine for 4.x version, and I'm looking forward to what comes in the next one. That's for sure. I'm gonna go ahead and clear the 11 one again to get the third star, but that's about it. See you around.